All right. I think this is a perfect time to start telling my story. Because I had an insane adventure the last couple days. See, my brother, Fayran, had moved out into this country, got himself a cottage. It's not really a cottage, really. It's more like a house. But, you know, out in the middle of cottage country. And we went to visit him because we were on our vacation, and he wanted us to, you know, go out there and spend some time with his new kid. And so just before we left, and welcome back, Casper, just in time. The homemade burritos, nice. I was like waiting, and I wanted to wait till you were back, but I didn't know whether or not you were gonna come back. So I was just starting this mining, and we're gonna tell a story now. Yeah. So welcome back. Uh-oh. Oh, they fell down. And what's this? What's this? A wandering horde. And I have no stamina. Okay. Let's just bring up, make sure this is loaded. So my son, my eldest son, just before we left, started experiencing a sore throat, and he was not really like feeling up to going, and well, he really wanted to go, but we didn't want to bring him if he was going to get strep throat or something like that. So and my mom was coming, and we don't want her to get sick and all, so we ended up leaving him at home with my wife and myself, my younger son, and my mom. We all drove up together, and it's a long drive. Like, it's a 3-hour drive out into the middle of nowhere. And you know, I put his address into the GPS, and it was like a few weeks ago I had driven up to his house to help him move. Maybe it was a month ago. And so I kind of knew the way-ish, and didn't have any problems getting up there the first time. So this time we're driving up, and everything seemed about the same, and except for this last little bit where I'm getting directed by the GPS to go into this road that was a very narrow country-ish road, and I didn't recognize it from the first time I came. But I thought, you know, like, it might just be an alternative way that's like quicker or something, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. I just went right down that road, and it was narrow and twisty and one way. Like, clearly if another car had come, we would have to somehow work out where one of us was, you know, would pull into a driveway or something like that, let the other one go. But it felt okay. Like, it felt like a cottage road. But in the winter, it's all completely covered by snow. And the snow looked packed, and somebody had clearly plowed it, I guess. I'm not sure if plow is the right word, but kind of probably like not a professional plow. Somebody came by and just groomed. The term that the neighbors were using was groomed. Groomed the road, which means make it nice and packed and flat. So we're driving along this thing, and got to keep in mind I'm in a SUV. I drive a Honda Pilot, which is a pretty big SUV, and so we're driving down this path, and it's narrow and feeling like a little bit dangerous, but it didn't feel so bad. We get to this point where the road kind of feels like it ends a little bit, but not really. One way kind of felt like a path that turned into more of a walking path. So I'm like, I don't think I could drive down that way. And besides, going down that way doesn't look like the way that the GPS is telling us to go. So we kind of got to go this way, but this way looks more like an open field of snow. Like, the road doesn't seem to go that way. So I kind of like edge forward that way, seeing if I can follow the path. Yeah, never trust AI. And as I'm going that way, I get stuck. right in the snow. I get stuck, right? Then I'm thinking, I've been stuck in the snow before. This is no big deal. I could probably just rock myself out, back out, but nothing I'm doing is moving the car at all. So I get out and kind of look, and boy, I'm in deep snow. Like, my car is like in the snow. So I called Brian. I'm like, I'm came down this path and I'm stuck in the snow, and I can't seem to rock myself out. And so he's like, okay, I'm gonna come with shovels, sand, and he has this, with the house he had also purchased a little I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's on the side, it says Ranger. It's a Ranger, which is it's like, kind of reminds me of a little golf cart, something a little bit bigger than a golf cart. But when it drives like a go-kart, so it has like a little gas motor, and it can go up to about 30 miles an hour, maybe 40 miles an hour sort of thing. And so he's driving out with the shovels and the sand and the everything, and as he's coming down the road from the other way, because we're really close to his house now, like we're within 5 kilometers of his house, he's coming from the other way, and we see him turn around the corner, and he's like, oh yes, okay, so Savior is coming. And about 200 meters in front of us, he gets stuck in the snow with his Ranger. So he's stuck and we're stuck. So he gets out of his Ranger, he's trying to like get it out, but it's not working. So he comes walking over to us with the shovels, and we're like trying to assess our situation with the car, seeing if we can get out of that. We're digging. It's like, it doesn't feel feasible. Like, we're digging, we put sand down, we're rocking ourselves out and back and forth, and it's not working. Meanwhile, we call CAA, which in Canada is, I think in America they call it AAA. It's like they'll come and start your car when the battery runs out, or help you get into your, into your car if you lock your keys in, that sort of thing. So they say, oh, yeah, sure, we'll send a driver out, and they'll probably be able to tow you out of there. Yeah, it's AAA out there, yeah, AAA. So in Canada, it's called CAA. I guess it's the difference is the first acronym is Canadian something something, and in America it's American something something. Anyway, they're on their way, but because we're out in the middle of nowhere, it's going to take them. At first they said 40 minutes, but when the driver contacted us, they basically said it's an hour 40 minutes. So in the meantime, we're trying to like shovel and dig and get ourselves out. Car is not going anywhere. So we think, okay, CAA is coming, they'll get the car out. Let's go try to get the little dune buggy thing out of the snow. And so we go over there, and we're like pushing and shoving and sanding and shoveling and trying again, like pressing the gas, and I'm pushing from behind, and finally we get that thing out. So that thing starts going. I get in the passenger seat. We're driving down this there's about 200 meters between the car and the buggy, and we get about halfway. So we're now about 100 meters, and we arrive at this place where I knew, because we walked by it, I knew this would be a treacherous spot. So we have a plan to get through this treacherous spot, but it doesn't matter, because no matter, we pick the best way to go through there, and the buggy gets stuck again. And this time, no matter what we try, it cannot come out of that. It's like completely stuck now. So we try up for like a good 15-20 minutes of getting it out using all the same techniques we did before, and no dice. It's so stuck in the snow. So we go back to the car. My son is in there, and he's like all scared, like, and I'm like, don't worry, the tow truck's coming. Don't worry, we'll get out of this. And we start doing more assessment, and we start realizing, like, one of the main issues with both the buggy and the car is that the snow is so deep that the snow is up against the bottom of the car and the buggy. So we start trying to dig out underneath the car, right? Just to make it so that if we do start moving, it's not the friction between the snow getting all clogged up inside of the bottom of the car. So we're doing that and trying some other things. Nothing's working though. Meanwhile, the CAA who's coming to our rescue, he calls us now and he's like, I'm at the entrance to like the road that you're getting in, but I don't really feel like it's a road, right? Like he feels like it's saying to us that he doesn't feel like it's safe for him to go. And we're like, no, we came in this way. You're at another entrance. Maybe if you go to where we entered, it might feel a bit better. And so he goes, okay, he's gonna drive around. He gets around to the other end. He calls us back and says, you know what? I don't feel safe coming in here. I can't come in here. Sorry, basically. And we're like, what? You're not like, we're like, you're gonna just leave us here? Like we're completely stuck in the snow in the middle of a forest, it felt like, on some small little dirt road. And he's like, no, there's nothing I could do. Yeah, that's it. So oh no. Okay, it's just a coyote. Ooh. So he turns around and goes home. Right. So now we have nobody coming. So meanwhile, Brian's wife called the neighbors, and the neighbors were all like, at least a couple of them were like looking for us. And but despite our best efforts of explaining exactly where we were, the neighbors couldn't find us either. But the neighbors called 911 as well. Yeah, we need friends with 4x4s. No, you can't. The problem is that I got my car into a spot where nobody in the area that knows the area would be willing to bring a truck into there. Like they know that they're going to get themselves stuck too, right? So we were in a spot that turned out, in hindsight, we found out was actually a snowmobile trail. It used to be a road, but is no longer been maintained for like the past 50 years. It hasn't been maintained. And so they're like, I can't even believe you got that far into that place. I know, exactly. GPS told us to take this path, this road, which used to be the main road into the area. Again, like this is like 100 years ago. It used to be the only road into the area, but since all the highways got built around it, it just became a path that nobody goes down. It's not paved or anything. And it's not maintained. And currently, these local neighbors were telling us that in the summertime, if you looked at the road there, you would take one look at the road and just be like, there's no way we're bringing a car into here. But because it was all packed with snow and the snow looked groomed, it looked kind of like a road that you could drive on. And I drove like a good 8 kilometers in, like 8 kilometers into this backcountry road, then got stuck. So everybody else who's kind of at the entrance going like, let's go in here. It's like, and they knew better. They knew better not to go down that road. So eventually, after a bunch more waiting, we knew that fire and police were coming. They had called us because they had gotten our number, and they're telling us, you know, we're trying to tell them exactly where we are and how to get to us, and they're sending the firemen on snowmobiles and snow vehicles in order to get into there. So they finally arrive. It was, I gotta, like, time frame wise, it was like we got stuck around just after 4, and the firemen showed up just after 7, maybe 7:30 or something like that. Okay, so we had been there for like a good 3 hours now. And they arrive and they're trying to assess the situation. They're asking us like how we even got in here, and we're trying to explain like we're not from here, we don't know this area, the GPS told us to go this way. They look at our car and are like, I could see it in their faces that they're all like, no, there's no way they're getting the car out. But they're asking me questions like, is there a hitch? Does my car have a hitch? Which it doesn't, unfortunately. There's no hitch on the car. They're looking to see if there's any place that they can sort of attach something to the car that would help them pull it out, and didn't seem likely. They also don't really, I could see that they're they don't really feel like they have the equipment. They only have snowmobiles and this other snow vehicle that they're calling an ATV, but it's not an ATV. Like in my mind, an ATV has 4 wheels, right? And you ride it like a motorcycle. This thing, you also ride like a motorcycle, but is about twice as tall as a snowmobile and twice as big. Like it's humongous snowmobile looking thing. And it has the snowmobile track. It's not wheels. It's like, you know, like the stuff that you see on the bottom of snowmobiles, like what do you call them? I don't know. like what you see on the bottom of tanks kind of thing. So it has this sort of like vehicle, and they're like, there's no way they're going to be able to pull a full SUV out with just these like, the tracks, like track thingies. Is that what they're called? Okay, so they have tracks and like skis on the front. So like it's just like a big version of a snowmobile essentially. And so they say to us that they probably can get the little buggy out, Feyran's buggy, like his Ranger, because it's not as heavy. But the car, they're not going to be able to get out. So what they suggest is they'll just get the buggy out, and they will transport us to the end of the road where it's safe now. And they'll give us a lift. In one of the firemen drove their truck up to where it's safe to drive and then walked in. And so he's like, well, I'll give you a lift with my truck, and all we need to do is transport you out to that safe area, select items from your trunk to bring with you, like luggage and such. And tracked vehicle, it's a tracked vehicle, exactly. It's designed to go over the snow, which were the only vehicles that they really were willing to bring into this area. So we're like, okay, fine. Like, so the firemen go over to the Ranger and make attempts at getting it out. It took them like a good hour to get the thing out. I think there was 8 of them, 8 firemen, and they're pulling. One of them is jumping on it to put weight on the wheels, so the wheels get traction, and the others are pushing and pulling, and somebody's driving it. Like it took them like a whole hour, but they finally got it out and to the safety of to the safe part of the road. Then they came back and we did the whole thing where we loaded up our stuff, and in a couple rounds of back and forth, they got everybody out. So we finally got out. The fire chief took us in his truck and drove us to the cottage. So we got to the cottage safe, but we had to leave the car overnight. But boy, by the time we got back to the cottage, I think it was probably 9:30. So we're all like spent, tired, and we ate and just went to bed, essentially. Had a couple drinks is what we did. Had a couple drinks, got the kids to bed, and we just went to bed. I know, totally, but the whole time I'm thinking, the car's stuck there, out in the middle of nowhere. And this is another awesome song for motorcycle riding, so let's go right over to the lead. Oh, not very much of a ride. Right, so I'm thinking to myself, like, how are we gonna get a car out? This is like ridiculous. So the firemen gave us a couple places to call that might be willing to do a vehicle rescue in there. So next morning, I wake up early, I'm calling all these places. Nobody's willing to go in there. Either they don't service the area anymore, or like there was just I called so many different places and none of them was willing to come. They were all like, either they knew the area well and knew that they didn't have the equipment to do it, or they didn't service the area. There was even like the firemen suggested that we call these this club. They're like a snowmobiling club that they have some equipment to help get some things out, but they'll charge us. But I even called them and they said they don't do it anymore because they had problems doing it one time and it messed everything up, messed their equipment up, so they don't do it anymore. But finally, one of the people that we call, I didn't get this number, but my mom had gotten the number from somewhere and had called in. They're like a company way out there. They were an hour and a half away, and they said they do this kind of rescue in the harshest of conditions, and they have a special vehicle that they're going to bring, and it's going to cost $1,000 to get the car out, because they have to bring a team of I can't remember how many people, but I think it might have been 6 people, and it's going to take them an hour and a half to drive out there and an hour and a half back, and the job is going to take so many hours, and they charge this much money per hour. Yeah, exactly, $1,000. And we're thinking, okay, well, this seems like our only hope. So we call we basically say, okay, fine, come, we'll pay you $1,000 to get this car out. Yeah. So they're on their way, but they're not going to be there until probably, they say 1. Turns out it wouldn't have been until about 2. So in the meantime, like, this is 9 in the morning. We're sort of like trying to figure out the game plan. My brother and I decide we're just going to go out to the car and just do everything we can. Just keep digging, keep pulling, keep doing everything. We're bringing bags of sand. We brought a sled. So we're going to drive the little Ranger up until where it's safe to drive. And we're going to just put all the equipment, all the sandbags onto a sled, and we're just going to pull the sled into the area and do everything we possibly can. We stopped by one of the neighbors to first off thank him, because he was the one who called 911, and to ask if he has an extra couple tools, because Brian only had 1 spade shovel, and we found the night before that the spade shovels were the most effective at cutting through the hard parts of the snow. So we felt like we needed another spade shovel, and we also kind of wanted anything that was more straight pokey, so that we can get under the car and just do a straight poke to get any pieces that are stuck under there. Anyway, the neighbor was super nice. He offered to come on his vehicle to help out, and we're like, no, don't worry. He's like, no, I'm gonna come help you, and add an extra pair of hands. And he has another friend who also came, and both of them had these ATVs that were bigger wheeled ATVs than Brian's little Ranger, and they felt like they could get into that area with their ATVs. They said they've been there many times, so Brian and I make it down there first. The neighbors arrive about a half hour later, and we're shoveling together. We're pushing and pulling, and then when the second ATV arrived, they suggested maybe we could try, like, using some straps, tying it to trees and pulling the car with the straps. And so we did that. We tried that. And hey, Zetrin, happy Friday to you as well. I'm in the middle of regaling everybody with a story of what just happened to me the last couple days. Gotten to the point where I had to leave my car stuck in the snow in the middle of nowhere while trying to get to Brian's place. We get back in the morning, we're shoveling around everything, as much snow as we possibly can. We're trying to shovel away from the car. But the neighbors have an idea of we'll just strap the car to a tree and pull. Okay, that obviously didn't work, because once the car moves a little bit, there's slack and no longer is it getting pulled. So then we were in a really bad area where it was pretty open. The closest trees were just too far away to sort of wrap the strap around a tree, which is normally the way that you would pull out a car, is wrap either a strap or a chain or something around a tree and then pull using the leverage of the tree. But there was none of that. There was no available option for that. So we tried just doing a straight up, using the winch on the front of the ATV to the back of our car, and that ATV got strapped to the other ATV. So 2 ATVs in a chain pulling the car from behind. And that wasn't working either. Too bad everyone streaming the digging out of the car. We'd have loads of advice. Yeah, trust me, we tried nearly everything. We tried everything. We dug all the... We used sand. We put wood panels underneath the wheels and everything. We tried everything. But eventually, like after maybe 3 or 4 tries of this, eventually we made some progress. So with everything in place, the wood, we had wood underneath the tree, like wood plank, what do you call it? Plywood? Like plywood sheets underneath the wheels, just wedged under there, and we put sand all over it so there was more grip, and we got rid of all the snow around the car, and eventually it moved. Like the car finally moved about 4 feet before getting stuck again. Now, meanwhile, we still have this other company who claims that they're going to be able to get us out on the way. So we're just trying everything we can to save us $1,000, right? Because if that company comes and does it, they're going to charge us $1,000. So we're thinking, if we can get the car out first, we save $1,000. So, and the neighbors, when that thought was there, the neighbors were just all like full on. They were just like full on. We're going to save you $1,000 here. We're going to do everything we can. So we're like, we're you should have seen us. It was at least 3 times it happened where the car moved a few feet and then got stuck in the next segment of snow, for which we just shoveled around everything, put the planks back in, repeat the process, got another 4 feet back into the snow, and we just did this over and over again until, because we were aiming for this one area where it's like flat, wide area that was hard enough that the car would stay on. So but it was a good 15 feet away. So we would make it 4 feet and then get stuck, and then another 4 feet and get stuck. And it's like that 15 feet felt like forever. Yeah. Where's the Twitch integration right now? No Twitch integration tonight. Yeah, sounds like a surface mining frenzy. Yeah, exactly. Sounds like a 4 winding in the muskeg. I don't know what that is. But by the way of it, what it sounds like it could have been like that. But with all of our efforts of doing this over and over again, digging, and we kind of got into this groove of like, we knew how to dig around, we knew how to dig out the snow from under the car, we'd get everything back in place, and we'd pull again and the car would move and then get stuck again. We did this a few times in a row and finally got the car up onto the landing. But in this last little bit, the car gets up on the landing, but one of the ATVs is backing up and fell into a ditch. So one of the the car gets out, but one of the ATVs gets stuck. 4-wheel driving in the muskeg. It's the swampy mud up here. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. So we finally got the car up onto the firm ground, and it was finally safe. Actually, there was a moment where once we finally felt like it was safe, we tried turning the car around, and then the car got stuck again, but we just repeated the process again and got it back out. And then instead of turning the car around, we decided it wasn't safe to turn it around. There wasn't enough room. So we're just gonna back it out the whole way. So we finally got that out, but the ATV went down into the ditch, and so we then had to spend time digging that out and strapping that to the other ATV and pulling the ATV out. It was a whole ordeal. Right, so these guys who are about to come, who are going to charge us $1,000, I was, even at that moment, in my mind I was thinking maybe I should call them to cancel them, just to let them know we don't need them anymore. But I felt like we were still not out of the woods, right? Because we just got onto this landing, but I'm still in the middle of nowhere where I still need to get the car out of this region, and who knows whether or not I'm gonna get stuck again. So I hesitated to call them. Meanwhile, as we're backing out, So we finally get the ATV out of the ditch. As we're backing out, one of the neighbors, and he was like slapping himself for this, he was backing out as well, and he went into yet another ditch. Now this one was way worse than the first one, where the ATV was almost on its side. Like its back wheel was so deep in the snow, and we're back to shoveling again. Like it just felt like never ending. So the car felt safe. We had just finished packing up all the equipment into the car, and then the other ATV went into the ditch, and it was just one of those like just mind fart moments where he just was backing up without thinking. Yeah, random zombie falling. Did I spend any time relaxing this weekend? There was a little bit of relaxing, but this is honestly like this is the second, like from the time that we got there to this moment, we had been nonstop essentially, aside from sleeping and eating. We had been nonstop dealing with this car. And so we're trying to get this ATV out again. We had to pull out all the equipment that we had packed up, and we're digging again and pulling, and it's just not coming out. And meanwhile, this couple who are snowmobiling come down the lane, and they stop, see us, they're having a trouble, and so we have he offers to help. And so now that we have at least 4, like one of the neighbors was relatively older, so we didn't want him lifting anything. So we're telling him, we don't want you breaking your back over this. Just, you use the ATV and try to like pull. So that's what he was doing. And this other guy, he's like on his ATV, and he was like a big guy. Like this guy's like, so he offers to help, and he's like, 4 of us could probably lift. Yeah, the 4 of us could probably lift the ATV. The ATV weighed about 600, 700 pounds. So with the 4 of us, we could probably lift the 600-700 pounds. So we're all underneath the ATV, lifting it out of this ditch, while the other ATV's pulling it, and we're just finally, we literally did this one last thing where the whole ATV just went up into the air. We moved it over, and it landed back onto solid ground. So that felt like a Herculean effort. But that worked. So that was like, after all this effort, all vehicles are now on safe, hard ground. Right, so now we're executing that plan of backing the car out and getting it to a place where I can turn it around and get out this one-lane high road all the way out. But at this point, everything started feeling better. So I'm driving up this one-lane road, everything feels better. So I start calling the guys. I'm getting irrationally angry at hearing this story. I know it was frustrating to say the least. I'm going to look back on this story as an adventure that we had. But anyway, we're driving out, finally feeling 100 times safer than we had in a long time. We're still going down this one-lane road or whatever, and I'm now deciding I'm going to call these guys, feeling like we're pretty much out of the woods. But did you finally make it to the epilogue? And my entire body must be aching from head to toe from all that digging. It totally is. I am my knee got, I'm not sure exactly what it happened to it, but it was during one of the pushing, one of my knees sort of buckled, I guess, and it's going to take some time to heal that. And my hip, which I always have problems with my hip, is just got flared up, and my upper body is really stiff and sore and everything, shoveling and digging and pushing and all that. So I call this company back and tell them, sorry to do this to you guys, but we just got the car out. And they were so mad. He was like, what? You didn't tell us that you were trying to get the car out. He's like, the way he was talking, it was as if we were supposed to tell him that we were going to be continuing to attempt to get the car out. And I'm thinking to myself, even if you knew that, what difference would that have made to your plans? Like, even if you like, you're on your way to come get this car out, but if you knew that, you know, we were trying to get the car out, would that mean that you wouldn't have come? You know, like at the time, yeah, maybe he wouldn't have hurried so much, or maybe he would have hurried a little bit more, although they did come as quickly as they could muster, I think. They had to rally up the guys, they had to load all the equipment and get it all ready to go and then drive. So and it was an 1.5 hour drive for them. So they had done all that and did the 1.5 hour drive, and they were literally 10 minutes out. They were 10 minutes from us when I called them. So they were really mad that they had spent all that time. And so in the end, he was like, I still have to charge you like at least 1 hour, which was $250. And in my mind, I knew, like, because the neighbors were telling me they're going to charge you anyway. They're going to try to charge you. And they were saying they're going to probably at least ask for $500. So don't go for like, tell them, try to lower it or whatever. But he basically said, you know, it should be more, but I'll charge you only $250. And I was like, okay, I'll pay you $250. You guys came out pretty much the whole way and spent the day. Yeah. Be sure to get a massage, Griff, if it gets super bad. I recently had a situation where I had merely done some cleaning up at home and got my shoulder muscles so tensed up that they pinched a nerve in your spine. Yikes. That made your left arm numb for a couple months? Oh, pinched nerves in the spine are no joke. Absolutely. Wow, that sounds really bad. And I do get regular massages specifically for... I had injured my back pretty bad several years ago, and it's never quite the same. It's never been the same. So I do get regular massages specifically for that injury, because I get really stiff in that area. So I already have a massage booked for a few weeks from now, so I think and over the years I've already developed sort of my routine of stretching and, you know, helping the issue that I normally have. I'm not sure about this knee problem that the knee problem is new. It feels like right under my kneecap. It really stings, and right behind my knee as well. So like this area in there, but I almost feel like that just needs to heal. I'm gonna let it heal. I'm just gonna rest it, see how that goes. And yeah, you're making you very glad you moved away from snow. Yeah, quite the story there, Griff. You've been lurking since Casper Raid, but heard everything. Yeah, it's, boy, it was like, I mean, we luckily, from there, it was like smooth sailing. There was this one moment on that road on the way out where, as I was saying before, these roads are like only one car wide. And so we're driving out feeling home free, and this other car, it's actually a pickup truck with a trailer hitched to the back. And this is like one of those trailers you live in, so it's like a huge trailer in the back, is coming down the other way. Like, we're coming head to head down this 1-lane road, and it's a really long road. So we're both looking at each other going, and I'm thinking to myself, that guy's not backing up down this road. So I guess we're going to be the ones backing up down this road. And so I say, I'm going to back up. And so I start backing up. And it's like, we had to back up at least 500 meters, like half a kilometer. We had to back up before we found the first driveway that we can pull into. But at first I was thinking, my God, what else can go wrong? Oh my gosh. But in the end, we got out and promptly visited the liquor store where we bought everybody who helped us some gifts. And then we did get back to the cottage, and we were able to get some relaxed time in. Have some fun. Brian's new place has a pool table and a dartboard and a bar. So we're playing pool and darts. We got to relax. Sounds like hot tub time. I know. Yeah, it was definitely take a hot and cold shower for me. See, hot shower is good, but cold shower was better in terms of helping the inflammation in the hip and the back. And I know I've talked about my cold showers before on stream, but yeah, I am a strong advocate of cold showers. They've helped me manage with all the pain that I have in my back. Why do I have the feeling my son who is with you will never go to Carpety Corso? No, actually, he was like a trooper. I mean, at first he was scared a little bit, you know, when we weren't able to get out. And then it was especially when the CAA guy said he wasn't able to make it in. Because we had been telling him, don't worry, the tow truck will be here any minute. He's on his way. He's just at the... They have this way that you can track by GPS the location of the tow truck. So we're like watching the tow truck, and he's watching the tow truck, and it's like he's almost here, and then he makes the call that he's not able to come. Hey, Fayran, what's going on? Have you been here this whole time, or just got here? But what a story, Griff. My God, I'm glad you got a chance to visit Fayran eventually. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, but once you just got here, so I just finished telling the story, so you know what happened. And for those of you who don't know, Fayran here is my brother, who was the one who I was visiting. So he, yeah, there he is. But yeah, boy, was that an adventure and a half. But truly, by the time we... I mean, there are a few follow-up things that were kind of messed up that I should probably add on as an appendage to the story. One of the things that happened was when we were digging out the ATV at the end there. That last little, we had packed up all the tools and we had taken all the tools back out to dig up the ATV. Well, when we shifted to the part where we were lifting the ATV out, we put the shovels into the snow like you do. You know, you just like put the shovel down, spike it into the snow, and then we cleaned up and left. But when we were tallying up all the equipment and returning it to the neighbor, we noticed, or he noticed, that we had been missing a shovel. And so Brian and I decided it has to be left out there. We had to have left the shovel out there because it's not in any of the vehicles or anything like that. So we went out there again to go search for the shovel. And it had turned out that one of us, who, not sure who it was, but one of us had just put the shovel down into just the right spot that it blended in perfectly with all the little surrounding trees. Because the shovel handle was only wooden, and it was like kind of not in the best of conditions, so it kind of looked like a natural tree color. It actually blended in perfectly by color with all the trees around it, and where it was stuck was right next to this little cluster of these little trees that were sticking out of the ground. So we literally, when we were searching for this shovel, we were standing within 3 feet of the shovel looking, because that's where the ATV was. Like, we're looking for it, and it's like we couldn't see it until eventually I'm like, wait a minute, there it is. It's like right here within like arm's reach. So we found this shovel. Brian, you didn't return that. Did you return the shovel yet? Wait, you must have gone to visit the neighbors and gotten back already, I guess. Yeah, you returned it. Okay, good. Whew. Yeah, that we successfully got 2 vehicles out of the ditch. Yeah, and you went to that party at their house. Yeah, nice. As a Jeeper, as a cheaper, I'm impressed. Boy, it was an experience and a half. Let's just say that. It was definitely an experience. I would say in the way that it was nightmarish, but at the same time, it kind of was like an adventure, I guess. Definitely more experienced now than I was before in terms of how to navigate backcountry and how to get stuff out of the snow. So I guess the positive side of it is that if I ever get stuck in the snow again, I know what to do. We know the fire. We met the fire chief. He actually lives really close to Brian. And another thing that happened was that in that moment when we were being rescued by the fire crew, we had accidentally left one of our, I think it was a bedroll. We had left it on the vehicle that was helping us out. So when we were tallying up all our stuff, we realized there was something missing. So I called the fire chief and asked if we had left it in his truck. We hadn't, and so he said the next day he's going to check the ATV if we had left it in there, and it turns out that that's where it was. So he came and I think that we're gonna arrange getting that thing back. Yeah. You're super jelly. You're living in an awesome house out there. Yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere.